On Christmas Eve 1915, world-renowned physicist Albert Einstein was having tea when a blood-stained letter arrived from the Eastern Front. World War I was raging, Europe and parts of the world were in total chaos, but despite all the horrors, Albert Einstein's mind had presumably been elsewhere for weeks. A month before Christmas Eve, on the 25th of November 1915, he had published his world-famous theory of general relativity, and from all corners of the world had been receiving communication on this matter. This letter stood out, however. Not only did it literally come from the German Eastern Front in Russia, but the envelope was muddied, had a torn corner and even bloodstains around the name of the sender. And inside it held the answer to a formula which Einstein had deemed nearly unsolvable. The sender was a gentleman by the name of Karl Schwarzschild, and he did something many deemed impossible, all while dodging shell bombings and nerve gas during his fight in the First World War. Welcome to This Time in History. With this time the incredible story of how the concept of black holes were discovered in a Russian trench during the First World War. In 1915, physicist Albert Einstein published the highly impactful theory of general relativity. It was 10 years after his theory of special relativity and was, at least from the perspective of natural sciences, almost literally earth-shattering. This is a history channel, so we will not get into the theory too deep, but in short, the theory of general relativity explained the so-called physics of all situations. Albert Einstein proposed that each and every object in space is relative to each other, space and time, and that those could behave differently in various situations. The only constant was the speed of light. After 10 years of non-stop work, he finally got around and published the theory, which was received full of praise by the scientific community. This theory came with a formula which had no exact solution yet. The formula was, to say the least, a monster. Einstein himself believed if it was ever to be solved, it would take years and perhaps decades of work at prestigious universities to make it happen. The theory could be used to calculate the orbit of objects, like planets, relative to one another, and therefore predict their behavior or orbit. Somewhere a couple thousand kilometers from Einstein's Berlin apartment, a man by the name of Karl Schwarzschild started cracking his brain over the formula. Schwarzschild was a physicist, mathematician and astronomer. He was well studied and versed in the scientific community of his homeland Germany. By the time the First World War broke out, he had taken on the post of director at the Astrophysical Observatory in Potsdam, near Berlin. Schwarzschild, as the name might suggest, was Jewish. In an increasingly more anti-Semitic Europe, on the verge of war, he decided to make an ultimate sacrifice. Schwarzschild gave up his rather accomplishing and comfortable life to volunteer for the German army in 1914, at the outbreak of the First World War. He was already over 40 years old by then. Schwarzschild's exact skills weren't completely wasted at the front, as his task became to do ballistic calculations for artillery, in essence to use his math to precisely bomb the enemy. First, he served on the Western Front before being sent to the much colder and harsher Eastern Front. It was here that late 1915 he read Einstein's general relativity theory and its formula. Although Einstein had given an approximate solution, an exact solution was missing. And so in his spare time, Schwarzschild got to work. In a very simplified version, he basically took various large and bulky objects to test on the formula, which worked, until he found that some objects are so large and bulky that they break the entire formula. These objects are what we would nowadays call black holes. Schwarzschild wrote his finding on the 22nd of December 1950, finishing his letter to Einstein with the following sentence. As you see, the war treated me kindly enough, in spite of the heavy gunfire, to allow me to get away from it all and take this walk in the land of your ideas. When the letter reached Einstein's apartment on Christmas Eve, he immediately started reading and formulated his response. I have read your paper with the utmost interest. I had not expected that one could formulate the exact solution of the problem in such a simple way. I liked very much your mathematical treatment of the subject. Next Thursday I shall present the work to the Academy with a few words of explanation. Schwarzschild himself could not meet with Einstein to discuss his finding, unfortunately, as he passed away a mere 3 months after his discovery in a hospital away from the front to an autoimmune disease. He was put to rest in his family grave. His contributions did not go unnoticed, however, as a solution is still known in the field of physics as the Schwarzschild's metric. Also, several celestial bodies such as a meteor and a crater on the moon were called after him. Thank you for watching, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you next time in history.